Kia ora, good evening. The future of Rugby Park Stadium will be discussed tonight at a special meeting of groups with an interest or possible interest in the facility's future.
The beleaguered home of the Southland Stags has been a feature of the news for all the wrong reasons after the seriousness of its indebtedness became apparent last year. In all, there's an outstanding balance of $1.5 million owed to the Community Trust of Southland, Pacific Dawn Limited and Rugby Southland itself. Last week, Invercargill Mayor Tim Shadbolt intimated that it was likely the City Council would be asked to take over ownership of the historic piece of rugby real estate, along with its liabilities, which include funds outstanding and ongoing maintenance costs of up to $300,000 a year.
In my view, the only organisation or community-run organisation that has the economic power to actually run a stadium is the council. So the people of the city are going to have to decide whether they want rugby as part of their future or not. If they do want rugby as part of their future, I believe it can only happen if council has a major input into this infrastructure.
We will bring viewers coverage of the outcome of tonight's meeting in tomorrow's bulletin. Hunter Andrews, South Today News.
Reforms come into effect today for New Zealand's family court system, and the Law Society has been involved in a major educational program to ensure all family lawyers are prepared for the new regime. Family Law Section Chair Gary Collins says lawyers still have misgivings on some matters, but says family lawyers are committed to doing their best to make the new system work. I asked Justice Minister Judith Collins why the changes were needed.
Well, what's brought it on are a couple of things. One is the fact that far too many people are going through the family court system when matters can be resolved on relatively simple matters without going through that. And that's been, unfortunately, we've had huge blowouts in the cost of the family court and legal aid, a 65% increase over a couple of years. Coming up to 2010, it was just a massive blowout, but also no better results for people, and particularly not for children. It takes around 260 days for a care of children matter to be dealt with and resolved in the family court. That is a huge amount of time in a child's life, and many of these cases are things such as where Johnny's going to spend Christmas this year. That's the sort of thing that the courts should not have to be involved with if it's at all possible. So what we're doing is pushing the changes through to mediation, parenting through separation programs, helping people to understand that using their children to beat up on each other is actually only going to hurt their children, and it's not the sort of thing that the courts should be part of. So there is, obviously it also means that the courts should be freer to take on the more urgent cases, serious cases, within a quicker period of time.
Traditionally it has been the only backstop available, most likely, so how will people come into the system? They're just automatically referred to it?
Yes, they'll be, unless there's issues of violence or it's a very serious matter that needs to be dealt with quickly, then people will be sent to parenting through separation courses. If they want to access the family court, they'll have to go to mediation if they want to access the family court, and mediation will be funded for those people who would normally get civil legal aid, and for others there'll be it's a reasonable fee, frankly, for what's involved. It will be a lot cheaper than going to lawyers, and it's about sorting out what really are the issues and doing it before people get themselves into positions that they find difficult to come back from.
Just on that fee, it's a flat fee. How much?
Yes, it's $897, including GST.
That's a flat fee that's shared amongst all the people involved in the case?
That's right, yes. So if it's two people in it, as you normally have, then that would be half and half.
Southern Institute of Technology Chief Executive Penny Simmons has just returned from a successful trip to Malaysia, Borneo and Indonesia. In what's believed to be a first for a New Zealand education provider, Ms Simmons signed a significant memorandum of understanding with a Sarawak tertiary education provider in Malaysia.
It was really successful. We were tying in with the New Zealand Week in Malaysia, which the Ambassador, the High Commissioner, organised, so we tied in with part of that. We were in Kuching in Sarawak in Borneo and also in Cebu, and both of those cities have really strong links with New Zealand and particularly Southland. So we've got contacts there. For example, the Finance Minister of Sarawak is his brother lives here in Invercargill. So there's some really good tie-ups and links.
What does it mean for SIT in particular? You have confirmed and signed an agreement?
Yes, we have. We believe we're the first institution to have a memorandum of understanding signed with an institution in Sarawak, and that's a really good opening for us in that we can have staircasing, articulation arrangements from their institute, ICATS, into SIT. They're not degree granting, and so their students can go from diplomas to degrees here or certificates to diplomas here. So we're just working through now the individual program by program articulation arrangements, and the management team are coming over here in May to further that work.
Is there an end to SIT's international ventures? What goals do you have in mind?
Well, our immediate goal, of course, is to get to 1,000 international students,
and how far away now?
We'll be over 600 this year, so hopefully well over 600, and we want to get to that 1,000 within the next couple of years. So the Malaysian and the Indonesian markets are ones that we really haven't got big numbers coming from yet, and we're keen to really grow those numbers, and particularly in Indonesia, which was the other country that we visited. Indonesia's economy is growing fast. There's a growing middle class that we need to tap into, so we had some really good results there as well.
Stay with us after the break. Weekend action and MP for Invercargill Eric Roy on his party's positive poll results. Welcome back. Southland has added their numbers to the 2,500 people nationwide who this weekend protested against the proposed Trans-Pacific Partnership Agreement.
The New Zealand government started behind closed doors negotiations with 11 other countries 4 years ago, and if the United States and Japan strike a deal on agriculture at a meeting in April, then significant progress towards a multi-nation agreement is expected soon after. Critics of the proposed partnership agreement say the negotiations are being driven by the US for the advantage of global corporations, and that any agreement is likely to erode democracy in countries such as New Zealand, especially over issues regarding food and medicines. Late last year, a petition opposed to the secrecy of the TPPA was circulated and gained 26,000 signatures, calling for the release of documents outlining the details of the proposed trade agreement. The 12 countries involved, as well as New Zealand, are the United States, Australia, Brunei, Canada, Chile, Malaysia, Mexico, Peru, Singapore and Vietnam.
The exhibition Kermadec, Lines in the Ocean at the Southland Museum and Art Gallery had a very cultural haere yesterday. The exhibition celebrated the region's Pacific culture heritage, and on its final day, craft makers, guest performers and artisans came together to celebrate the mixed cultural heritage in Southland. Crafts from Tonga, Samoa and the Cook Islands were on show in the gallery, and yesterday some demonstrated how they're made and shared the importance of retaining traditional skills and diverse culture. A performance by Southland Boys High School Senior Pacifica group, Toa Moana, Men of the Pacific, added to the vibrant occasion. Recent solid polling for the National Party is encouraging, says MP for Invercargill Eric Roy, but there's never time for complacency in politics. Hunter Andrews today quizzed the city's MP on a range of topics, asking first how comfortable he and his parliamentary colleagues are with National's current healthy poll results.
Oh well, we're never comfortable, but we're in a good place, that's what I'd say. I think if you look at the left-hand side of the block and the right-hand side of the block, there's movement between the parties within, but at the moment there's no mood for change, and that gives us, I wouldn't say confidence, but it just kind of, it's a bit of assurance that we're on the right track. We've just got to lock that in and keep going.
Of course, you're retiring from Parliament this year. I wanted to ask you, a lot of people are talking now about the 3 versus 4 year parliamentary term. What do you personally favour?
Yeah, well, I'm quite clearly in favour of a 4 year. I think it brings about much better governance. irrespective of who's in. And if you look worldwide, the range is from 3 years to about 7 years, which I think French president, that's far too long, but 3 is just a bit short, so I think 4 would suit us much better. Gives you an opportunity to cement in and do the things that you need to do without an election breathing down your neck, because that does change the behaviour of politicians, there's no doubt about that.
Are you feeling, you're obviously not campaigning, that's Sarah Dowie's job here now, but are you relaxed about this time of the electoral cycle?
Well, I'm going to miss campaigning. I used to love getting out there on the hustings and just promoting Invercargill, promoting the National Party and what it's able to do. So I'm going to miss that. Yeah, I'm kind of looking forward to the next phase of my life, which is going to be a refining process as to what we do and don't do, a lot of opportunities. So it's an exciting change for me.
I want to just quickly broach Rugby Park. There's obviously issues going down there. You probably don't want to say too much, but are you pretty secure that the rugby is secure here in the province? Oh,
look, Southland's like every other province with less than 500,000 people in it. It struggles to maintain a side in the national provincial competition. Nothing new about that.
That's professionalism, isn't
That's what professionalism done. We've now got to the stage where there's a bit more realism about salaries for players, and so we've got that off our back. We've now got to manage the stadium. And Southland's a significantly important nursery to rugby for New Zealand. Just look at the number of All Blacks that it has produced, albeit they have in the past gone and played for other provinces. We've held the Ranfurly Shield. It's an iconic part of what is Southland, and if we're looking for something that ties together urban and rural, rugby's kind of it really, along with netball, but they are our two sports, and rugby's been our icon. And look, I'd be very sad if we can't nut out a solution to this problem.
It's quite hard to imagine Southland without the Stags, isn't it?
It doesn't bear thinking about, nor does it really bear thinking about us playing in the second division.
It was all hands to the grind yesterday at a sculpting workshop in the city, with several artists casting clay work tiles to plaster as part of an aesthetic development project for South City. Sculptors Stu King and John Wishart led the workshop as part of the South Alive Revitalisation project, which includes a public artwork at the new park behind South City Mall. Aurora College students have been creating clay tiles, the first stage of the mark making and trace process that will be incorporated into a final work. Yesterday, several clay tiles were cast in plaster. The public artwork has received funding from Creative Communities, and workshop organiser Catherine Mitchell says they're aiming for a mid-year unveiling. The World in Miniature came to the Freemasons Hall as members of the Southern Railway and Modellers Club showed off their handiwork. Tens of thousands of hours of painstaking work was on display over the weekend as the region's modellers came together to compare notes and share their work with members of the public. The display was not only for fans of miniature planes, trains and automobiles, but also intricately detailed miniature houses with everything needed for a small-scale family to move right in. One modeller took light rail to a whole new level, creating a rail system contained within a modest suitcase. All the proceeds from the weekend scale model exhibition will be donated to the Southland branch of the Riding for the Disabled. That's it from us. Next in sport, a follow-up of the weekend's Super 15 action from the news team. Good night.